Hello, and I would like to welcome you back to the next speaker on Real Divorce Talks this time. And I want to introduce you to Micah James. She is the co founder and chief empowerment officer. I just think that's so cool. I would love to have that title at Empowering Financial Coaching, where she helps individuals and families align their habits and their values to create lasting change. She's a mom, a stepmom, and a former single parent. Micah blends lived experience with practical financial strategies to equip her clients with tools that work in real life without shame, guilt, or overwhelm. Micah, I'm so glad you're here today, and I'm going to hop off the screen here and just let you take it away.
Thank you so much, Marty. I am so delighted to be here. Talking about topics like this are really kind of like one of my heart topics. So I am going to share my screen because I like color and pops and sparkle, and my friend Suzanne rubs off on me in that way. And so I am going to share my screen, and you are going to see some beautiful color pop up. Let me know and make sure you see that. Awesome. So today we're going to talk about how life is a little messy, but you can still be brave and budgeted in the middle of all of that. So, speaking from personal experience, even my co-founder, who is now my fiance and will be my husband soon, Charles, we have both been single parents at one point in our journey, and we know how hard it is out there when you are going through that kind of place in your life. But we want to tell you that there is hope in the mess. And so we're going to talk a little bit today about how you can make some money moves and you can reset your mindset so that you can avoid some of the common pitfalls that most single parents fall into, particularly right after divorce, when we are navigating some of our finances. So here we go. So again, I am Micah James, Empowerment Officer here. She told you a little bit more about me, but most importantly, that is my email address. And if you find yourself as a single parent out there with no support system, I am now your support system. And so write that down, and you now have the start of a community. And so do not do this alone. That is our big mantra around here. And so as we go through this, just remember you are not by yourself. Now, my story is a little bit messy, just like we're going to talk about today. In 2018, my world fell apart. Lots of circumstances aligned there, job, divorce, everything. In 2019, my divorce was finalized, and I found myself with shared custody of two beautiful children at the brink of what I know now was COVID. And so we found ourselves navigating custody schedules and work from home and all of that right at the brink of the pandemic. And so figuring out single parenthood, in addition to being isolated in the pandemic, was something I would not wish on anyone. And so this is why I believe even strongly more about not doing this by yourself. In 2021, coming out of that, I realized that I really needed a community around me, and I asked for help. I found my own financial coach and realized the support that I could get because I needed a non anxious, non emotional presence to help me look at my finances and say, what's really going on here? That was the best gift I ever gave myself for my birthday, by the way. Um, and then in 2022, if you're a person of faith, this might speak to you. If not, you know how important it is to just find some greater meaning in your life. And so for me, that was reconnecting with my faith. In 2023, therapy on top of that. And in 2024, I finally felt like my sunshine and rainbows, as my fiance called it, starts to come back. And now 2025 is better than ever. So I say all of this to say it's a journey and it's a path, but there is hope in your persistence and in your getting up every day and in your making one choice at a time. And so we're going to talk about one choice at a time today. Now, as a single parent, you have a unique perspective because it's you. You are in charge of the universe now. You may have an ex-spouse, you may have some of those things to deal with, but in your household, you are the king or queen of your kingdom. And so you have to make those decisions. Now, for some people, that is overwhelming. And for some people, that is a dramatic financial reset. And what I want you to hear me say is that being a single parent is not a financial death sentence. Because for lots of people, that means some of the resources they've had are no longer available to them. Some of the dual income that they've lived with is now cut in half. And so right out of the gate, I need you to adjust your mindset and say, I still have resources and I can still make great choices for my family. Your mindset is going to be the thing that guides you throughout this whole journey, and you get to choose what that is. The other thing is that, yes, your financial situation is different now, even if it's just slightly different. Everybody's situation changes in just a different way, but we just need a different plan. And we get to have hope in the middle of that. So we get to have hope that, our kids are going to be okay. We're going to have hope that, we're making a great choice. Tomorrow's going to be brighter than yesterday. We're going to have hope that, all of the goals and dreams that we had planned for ourselves are still possible. And so that is what we have to hold on to. So one of the things that we don't talk about very much as single parents is all of the struggles that are kind of the elephant in the room, but really we don't talk about them very much. Unless you come to summits like this, we don't really lay it out and speak it out loud. So today we're going to talk and speak it out loud. I'm a big believer in speak it out loud, lay it all out on the table, because if you say it out loud, it becomes real and then you can deal with it, right? And so the struggles that we don't talk about very often is that single parents have a unique dynamic of somewhat inconsistent and unpredictable income. Now, you might have a 9-to-5 that pays you regularly, but this inconsistent and unpredictable income might be that child support, or might be a reimbursement from ex-spouse, or might be some other thing going on in your world that's impacting your finances outside of that job. And so we have this other layer of kind of what I'll call messy in addition to our paycheck. The second thing that we have is guilt-driven spending. All right, come on, raise your hand. I know you've done it. You have bought something for your children or for yourself because you are trying to fill the void of something, or you're trying to make joy with money. And this is a really big struggle that we deal with as single parents, because we are trying so hard to give them a life that we think we need to give them because the world tells us that we need to give them that life. And we haven't stopped for 5 seconds and really evaluated what they really need. And what they really need is a happy parent. What they really need is a safe place to live. What they really need is food on the table and warm clothes. And the rest of it is gravy, y'all. It is gravy. I'm speaking in my Texan today. The rest of it is icing and sprinkles. So, I have one client who we have been working with, and she just this past week said, I wish I hadn't have done that because I did it because I felt like I had to. And she got She got a lease on a big piece of entertainment equipment, a gaming system, because she felt like she needed to infuse some kind of entertainment into her kids' lives. But then it added that extra stress and that extra finances and all of that into her life where it really wasn't a need. She was just trying to make up for what was missing. So be aware of that pitfall and be okay with saying, oh, that's why I did that. You can undo it. You can cancel that, rent to own. You can, say, hey guys, we're not going to go to 7-Eleven every day after school anymore. You can do those things. And then the world, unfortunately, and Charles and I have this conversation all the time, is built for 2-income families. And our schools are built around it. Our schedules in the world are built around it. And so we are constantly trying to fit our unique structure of family, our single parent family and our children into that 2-parent mold, and you are trying to make up for that. And what I'm trying to tell you is stop the rat race. You are one person, and you are one person with beautiful children, and just be the one person with beautiful children. One of the things that Charles and I run into all the time is that, if you have kids in different grades, their activities are scheduled at the same time. The school district thinks that there are multiple parents that can divide and conquer, and you just can't. You are one person and you cannot divide yourself in half. And so you have to be really honest with your kids, and you have to be an advocate for your family in the school. Because I had a colleague tell me that they can't fix what they don't feel. And if you don't raise your hand and say, hey, my family doesn't fit this schedule, then they will never feel it. And so these are the struggles that we have to deal with as 2-income households. They just expect you to be able to adjust to all of that. This all carries over into how we talk about money and finances, because, all of these things are carried over into how people ask about bills and finances and money and all of those things. They're looking for a certain mold, and maybe we don't fit that traditional mold anymore. And that's okay. Read the next sentence. I want you to pin this up on your wall. I want you to blow it up in big print. I want you to put it on your mirror, that you are not alone and you are not failing. Because there were days as a single parent where I woke up and I was just like, I'm doing the best I can and I'm still getting an F at this. But let me tell you, your kids and everyone see how hard you are working and how hard you are loving, and you are not failing. And you are not alone. All right? So when it comes to your finances, here are the 3 money moves that I would encourage you to make your world a little less messy and a little more brave and budgeted. So we're going to avoid those money traps that I mentioned earlier, the overspending out of guilt, financial comparison, and putting our head in the sand just to ignore the budget. I have one client who admittedly in her very first session with us said, I go to the store when I'm stressed and I just swipe and I walk out. We all know we have those moments, right? Somebody used to call it the Target tax, right? Where you can't get out of Target for less than a certain amount of dollars, right? Let's avoid the Target tax when we're stressed. The best way to do this is in moments of stress, pause before making any financial decisions. That's not the moment to adjust your budget. What I used to do as a single mom when I would get really stressed is my bad habit was I would want to go cancel everything. I would want to go cancel every subscription. I would want to go undo everything. And I realized that canceling Netflix for $9.99 a month or whatever it was at the time, that's not going to fix my big problem. It might relieve some immediate stress because I feel like I'm making an action. But at the end of the day, $10 is really not going to solve the bigger issue of being able to pay this big bill or that big bill. So while we want action in the moment, what we really need to do is pause and think more strategically about our resources and where to apply them. And so this is where we get into a value-based budget. One of the conversations we have with the people that we work with all the time is not only what are your essentials, because essentials look different for every family. If you have, a kid on the spectrum like I do, sometimes that therapy and those medical appointments, sometimes, those kind of supports, those are higher on the essential list than they might be for other families. Sometimes essentials look different if you're in a town where you can walk versus drive. And like essentials look different for each family. And so you have to align your budget with what your essentials are. There is no cookie cutter budget out there in the world that works for every single family. And so you have to name your essentials. You have to make sure that you are doing essentials first, eating, shelter, clothes, all of those kind of things in the way that is aligned with what you need. And then you have to determine what we're doing extra later. And so for me, when it comes to single parents, lots of times we get hit with the field trip fees or the book fair. Don't get me started on book fair. And all of the other things that we get hit with, when our kids are in school. That's not essential. That's an extra. And so we get to make those value judgments based on where am I going? What are my goals? And if it's not aligned with your goals and your values, it gets put on pause. And then you get to work towards those dreams and values. What it also does when you have this conversation is it gives you power and words to talk to your friends and your family and everybody about what you're doing with your money. Because everybody wants to have an opinion. Everybody wants to have an opinion about what you do with your money. Hey, you really should buy a house. Well, maybe buying a house isn't right for me right now. Hey, you should do this or that. Well, maybe that's not right for me right now because it's not aligned with my goals or values. Doing this work up front gives you that language to be able to say out loud, I'm not going out every Friday night because I'm taking my kids on a vacation this summer. Then we got to reframe that guilt-based spending. Presence, this is super cheesy, but stay with me. Presence is better than present. And so I remember one of my first Christmases as a single mom. Christmas was a $20 thing. Everybody got $20. And that was very different than what it was before. And we had to have a conversation about that. But it was one of the best Christmases ever because we made cookies, we made caramel corn. You find ways to be together because honestly, really, that's what it's about. And as super cheesy and as hallmarky as that sounds, like when you get down to the core of what really is important, I just want to curl up a couch with my kids and watch White Christmas when it comes down to, holiday season and those kind of things. So really, I don't need 100 presents to make that happen. So figure out what is core to your family and tradition and celebration, and then do that. Figure out what that is. Now, the reminders here is remember, this big reset doesn't have to be the end. It can actually be a springboard for a lovely new beginning. And so I've seen that happen for so many people, is that whatever was happening before is before, and you can springboard into a lovely new future, and that is amazing. Progress beats perfection every time. So keep moving forward. All right. It has been my delight to be with you. Marty, I want to jump over to what I have to share with everybody, if that's okay. All right. So we're big about kind of breaking down shame and guilt here. And so one of the things that we have developed is kind of a quick kind of mindset reset. So whenever you're in that framework or you're having one of those days where like, oh my gosh, I am, beating up on myself, or I'm having a bad day about, the choices I've made, you can refer to this checklist and run through these things and say, okay, I've got to name it. I've got to say it out loud, and this is how I reframe it. If you scan this QR code right now, it's yours for free. And we would love to give that resource away to you for free. And don't forget that you can always reach out to us, and we would love to be a resource for you.
Micah, I want to thank you so much. And I have also put that, I think it's the same link in the chat. So if people can't do the QR code, do that. So, Micah, thank you. I'm going to stop the recording.